They don't know what to do. And why do we know? We know because of the Book of Mormon. You see, the Book of Mormon is really like a field manual. Once you read it and really get into it, you can see this stuff when you walk Ohio.
I'm blown away that this story exists.
Isn't that awesome?
You saying the church has had the story?
Church has this. It's in the historian's office. That's where I got the story. These osteological variations are found occasionally in the present Indian, and the former is very common in the Negro. How about that? What did Joseph say? Jaredites.
Brother Jared was black. This will change LDS paintings quite a bit.
I'm just telling you, and I'm not done with you yet. There's more.
Welcome in here to Zion Media, and I am joined by David the Lion Douglas and our most famous guest. That's right, Wayne N. May. Brother May is with us today, and I got to tell you, this is the second time we've done this. We tried to do this in the morning, and it just wasn't working. And so whenever that happens to me, I know that whatever it is we have to present or say, it's important. The universe, the adversary was trying to stop us from giving you this information, but we reset, we recalibrated, we worked with the technology, and the technology would just, we'd be talking and it would just go, it would just die on us. So it's not going to happen this time, and we're going to get through it. So today, we're going to be talking about a topic that has always fascinated me, and I think oftentimes gets overlooked in the Book of Mormon. So much of what we talk about is Nephi and Lehi and their journey, and we forget all about the brother of Jared and these people that came over to this North American continent long before Nephi and Lehi. And we're going to be diving in to the Jaredites today. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Wayne. But wait, before we do, if you haven't gotten your tickets, then I want Wayne to talk about this. He has a little card that he's going to hold up here in just a second. I know because he did it the last time we tried to record. But Wayne, tell us, you have an event that's coming up in less than 2 weeks now. Tell us about the event, and let's make sure everybody shows up. Listen, I'm going to be there. David's going to be there. And more importantly, are a bunch of amazing guests. But Wayne, tell us a little bit about what's going on here in just a couple of weeks.
Okay, this will be our fourth event for Land of Promise, and we're going to be at the Maple Mountain High School in Spanish Fork, Utah. That's June 20 and 21. The doors open at 8:30. It starts at 9 o'clock sharp, and you can come in for a day rate at $40, or you get both days for $75. And it's just awesome. We got a great lineup of speakers. What I'm excited about is I brought 4 speakers in from the Midwest, which very few of you, if any, have even heard these guys. I know 3 of them for sure you have not heard. One you've heard a little bit because he kind of hangs out with the bus crowd as they do tours through Ohio. He'll pop up now and then and do a presentation at their hotel. But basically, these 4 guys are unknown, and they've all got awesome material that you're going to really appreciate. So I'm just going to hold this up here real quick. It's June 20 and 21, Maple Mountain High School. It's LDS Archaeology.com to purchase your ticket. And if you have trouble, call the phone number 715-962-1422. That's my office, and we can help you over the phone either way. Okay?
So, now, Wayne, you have an Ojibwe speaking. Can you tell us, just give us a little insight about, I'm really excited about him.
All right. I'm going to say back around July 2004, this guy just called me up. Emailed me first. Then we did talk, but just out of the blue, he just contacted me and he says, Wayne, he said, you're on the right trail. Looking at the Michigan tablets, he said, I can read some of them. He said, they are legitimate. They're real. He said, oh, there could be some fakes in there, but he said, basically, we we know that it's good material because the script is there that is our ancient script, which is cuneiform, and it's mixed with several other things. But he said, we can see it. And he said, I want to help you. Well, that opened up a whole new window. I published him in the Land of Promise. And I have brought him. He's one of my 4 guests that I have brought from the Midwest. He actually from Canada, Toronto. He brought, I believe it's the Snake River Band of Ojibwe. And he said over half of their people and their reservation have had their DNA tested, and they're very, very high in the X mark, which goes back to Israel. And he said, we know we're from Israel, but we also know we mix with the local people here. So we're a cosmopolitan, mix of people. But this guy is so sharp. He does translations for the Vatican. They've got records from the 16 and 1700s where they made treaties with the Indians in Canada with the black robes that were up there, the Jesuits. And he also works for the Canadian government to work their treaties out and translate so they can get along today and try to settle their differences on boundary disputes in the nation of Canada. So this guy is really a big deal, and he's going to be here. He's going to be here.
A real
I hope you guys get a chance to interview him and get him on your show. It's Brian.
Would love that.
Okay.
Brian, we've heard about Brian Utenin.
Yeah, we have.
We're excited to meet a real Ojibwe.
You bet.
Sounds fantastic.
That's what he is.
Okay, so let's go ahead and go to your slide. Did you have anything else that you wanted to share about the event too?
I don't think so. Just that it's coming up really fast. Really fast. Okay. So let's go ahead and move. Now, I'm going to talk about the Jaredites tonight, and we're going to cover a lot of material, and there's going to be a lot of stuff I know you've never heard before. So just hang on to your seat, and let me explain. The date here, 2400 BC, some will say it's 2200, and that's okay. 22, 23, 24, it's in that area. We never have it perfect on these dates once you get back beyond 1500, but this is the best we could do based on the Babylonian timeline in the Old Testament. But also notice the plus sign by 600 BC. I'm also going to show you and give you good sources that all the Jaredites did not die at Hill Rama at 600 BC. And the archaeological record will also support that. So a lot of people think that, boom, Jaredites are gone. No, not so. The majority of them, yes. But there were some independent holdouts. You got to remember, these guys were here for 1,700 years. They all just didn't hang around Lake Erie and Lake Ontario waiting for the big day to all, kill themselves, okay? They went out with colonies, just like anybody would. Explore the land, cover the area. So with that, let's go on to the next one. The Jaredites, in our scriptures, it tells us that they traveled north, and then they went west. That's my understanding. They went west. It really doesn't say west or east. It says they traveled north. And I'm going to take you on a west course for the Jaredites because they're going to end up at the Atlantic Ocean, and they're going to embark from there from southern England. I'm going to show this to you what I can with scripture and through archaeology for detail and for all the stuff we can to support this actual movement that I'm going to show this here to you on the Jaredites. Okay, so let's start out. This is the real big one in Ether, chapter 2 and 13. And now I proceed with my record, for behold, it came to pass that the Lord did bring Jared and his brother to even forth to that great sea which divideth the lands. Now you got to think about that. The great sea that divideth the lands. Now keep in mind, these guys have left from Babylon. The earth's being divided. People are being spread around. But before we go there, we got to look at some geologic events that took place. And we're going to focus on the supercontinent that God made, we call it Pangaea, one body of water, one piece of land, and that's where the beginning all started. So let's take a look at the journey. First of all, Genesis 10, 1 through 9, and God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together to one place, let the dry land appear, and it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters he called seas. Okay, this is what our geologists have done for us. This is what they believe Pangaea looked like and how it was positioned. And that's fine. We're going to work with this. We're going to take their model and expand it. Just keep in mind, no matter what we do, geologists and scriptures are never going to agree 100%. I mean, even they're going to miss a lot. So you got to pick a trail. And I'm going with the scriptures. And I'm going to take as much information as I can to validate what I'm about to show you. Now, looking at this, you have no idea what you're looking at, but we're going to help you out right here. Okay, here is all the major players of the continents all laid out. You can see how that's worked out. This is according to our geologists on the great Pangaea, one land, one water. All right, let's go down to the next one here. And then 7 and 6 and 7. And Noah was 600 years old when the floodwaters was upon the earth. And Noah went in, and his sons and his wife and sons' wives with him into the ark. Now, I don't think people really realize where was Noah living? Where did Noah set sail from? Well, if you pay attention to all the scriptures and the extra material that has been brought forth through the journal discourses and from the writings of Joseph Smith, you'll realize that he was in what I call the promised land, which is, I believe, North America. So he set sail somewhere here from North America, and he's going to end up over in the mountains of Ararat. Now, it's not the mountain of Ararat, it's the mountains of, it's plural. And the real place he landed, where most of scholars are looking to piece back his story, is called the Mount of Al-Judai. And you find that in the Quran. And by golly, there is a lot of stuff up there. Up there, you'll find probably, I don't know how many thousands of burials. You see, because early on, when Noah and them landed there, they built a staircase from that mountain all the way down to the level plain where they could farm and live. But when someone died, if they could afford it, they would have their body, they actually made a staircase all the way back up the top of the mountain, and they would plant their loved ones by the boat because Noah is buried there. And so that whole area, as it built up, they call it Naxwan, the city of Noah, Naxwan. And there's thousands of people buried up there. The graves are there. They're all up there. And it's just fascinating what's going on. So 15 generations later, and I showed this for a reason because of the bird hat. You might just hang on to that. 15 generations later, we see in Genesis 10, 25 and 32. Eber was born 2 sons. Name was Peleg for his days. The earth was divided. And these are the family sons of Noah and their generations. And the nations were divided where Father put all the people. He assigned them where he wanted them to go. Now, not all of them did that, but a lot of them gathered around the Tower of Babel. Of course, you know the story, how Father got mad and the big split took place. And then we pull up this here. This right here, of course, the big red line is going to where Father divides the continent of Pangaea. He's going to rip it apart. Now, you talk about tsunamis. Boy, if we could have seen what happened when this was ripped apart, it's just
that would have been nuts.
to be so destructive to anybody living along the edge on either side. Either side, doesn't matter. So, dividing the single supercontinent into 2 creates the east and west hemisphere. The great gulf left behind of the 2 hemispheres will obviously, it's not there. It's going to be filled in with water. It's going to pour in from the top and from the bottom. And that's going to create the Atlantic Ocean, which we call the Great Sea, the Great Deep, the Great Waters. And here it is, pouring in, ripping apart is taking place, east and west hemisphere. Now, what's very interesting, the Egyptians, in their old writings, they call the Atlantic Ocean the False Sea. How about that? The False Sea. Now, let's go on here. This one right here answered a lot of questions for me. This is referred to as the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. But when I first saw this put up in 1968, even though I wasn't a member of the church, I was kind of interested in the tale of Atlantis. And I thought to myself, well, here's a major suture from the top all the way down past South America. If there was a continent out there between America and Spain and North Africa, where's the rubble? Where's the pile of debris from the continent that went down? Or just even seeing a big plateau sitting down there at 5 and 7 miles down, which is incredible. It's not there. Atlantis was not there. So for me, right away, even in 68, I got thinking, I bet you North America could possibly be the real Atlantis. Because the story is right, the destruction is right, separation is right, but the land is missing. It's missing.
You know, and what they say about Atlantis is that it's supposed to be a place, a city that has like advanced technology. That
That's
if
right.
you could find Atlantis, then you'd find all this advanced technology. But I'd say that advanced technology already exists in America, like right now.
That's right. And I would now here's one of the things you can check on that. Okay. We have in Egypt, a good example, and in South America. It's called the megalithic builders. And I'm here to tell you, I am confident the megalithic builders were pre-flood. These are the guys that were building with 30 and 20 and 40-ton blocks. And they could cut them so smooth, when they stacked them, the molecules would interexchange. I mean, it actually happened. We can't do that today. And when you see that, so here comes our archaeologists, our historians, and are saying, my gosh, how can we find buildings built with this technique in South America, and we find them in Egypt, the north of Africa? How is it possible that ancient man was buzzing back and forth across the water? Well, see, he didn't have to, because the land was still one continent. That's when all this happened. All this stuff now that we call is confusing, because we don't give ancient man credit for sailing the ocean. Well, it wasn't necessary. It was still one big land. Okay, but I love this. This had to cost millions for National Geographic to lay this out, scan this seafloor, just millions. So let's talk about Jaredite's journey to the Atlantic seashore. Now, my friend Bruce Lloyd, and bless his heart, he does a lot of research, and he found this, and this is really important. And it came to pass that Jared and his brother and families, their friends and Jared and brother and the family, went down to the valley, which was northward. Well, he found this body of water that the geologists will all tell us is left over from the Great Flood, and it's called Parathesis. Now, going north, that's the big arrow, and we're going to explain this, and I believe they didn't turn east toward China, but I believe they went west, because the archaeology is going to take me that direction, and I got to follow the data. You can't just go someplace because you want it to work. You got to follow the data. That's the important thing. And it came to pass that the Lord commanded that they should go forth in the wilderness. Now listen, that's key word. We're going to come back to that. The wilderness, and that quarter where never man had been. Well, this is the quarter, but it's only part of it. It would go much off the screen where man never had been. Now they're going to travel into this quarter where man is, but they're jumping along the water. They're in swamps, maybe lake, maybe rivers, in this body of water, and they're practicing their barge building, because that's what they're doing. They're building barges, actually honing their skill to cross the great water where the Lord's going to take them. Now, right here, and it came to pass that they did travel in the wilderness to build the barges. They did cross many waters, directed by the hand of the Lord, Parathesis. So they're going to embark from here, and where's here? They're going to go to the shores of present-day southern England. That's where they're going to embark from, right there. Now, one thing we have to keep in mind, if we could look back in time at Jaredite's time, even the shorelines of Europe, Mediterranean, all this is going to be different. The waters are still high to have this lake. You understand that? The waters are still high. So all we can do is take the present-day shorelines and look at them. But the point is, they would not be this sharp and crisp. They'd be a little smaller, because the floodwaters are still receding. So let's go on. So Jaredites left in southern England. In southern England, the archaeologists have identified a people that come in from the east, and they come in to the England area, the British Isles, and they're called the Beaker People. Now, earlier on, this would have been different if it happened more recent, but earlier on, all the cultures were really laid out and engaged and tried to understand who they are by the pottery they made. And this guy here, these guys were making a special beaker pottery, and that's how their name stuck, so they call them Beaker, the Beaker People.
Interesting.
So that pottery, what's really interesting, we find it, guess where? In the Valley of the Ohio. Ohio, southern England.
Wow.
Departure. Now, and I'm going to show you a few more on that. So keep that in mind. Now, another thing to think about, again, this you got to remember this. When the Beaker people arrived in England, the archaeologists tell us they also brought metallurgy to the British Isles. Now, just hang on to that thought. I hope I can remember to kick it up later. I don't want to say anything right now. Metallurgy, British Isles, very important. So here's a painting. I just showed this. This is a friend of mine, Gary Talbot. I kind of think he's passed on, but this was in the church library for a long time, and he was very proud of that. And I thought the boats were kind of cool. Not bad. It's his guess what they might have looked like. And hey, it's anybody's guess. So there they are. So I just wanted to show that for Gary. So here we go. Again, keep in mind. And now I proceed with my record, but behold, it came to pass that the Lord bring Jared and his brethren forth in that great sea that divideth the lands. Okay. here we are dividing the lands. I am totally convinced it has to be the Atlantic Ocean. Now, here's some of the side chatter, okay? Guys that want to make the Pacific Ocean work. They say the Pacific Ocean works because it's bigger, and that does help. It's bigger. And when they leave, the Jaredites, it takes them 344 days to cross the body of water to get to the Promised Land. Well, if you go here and end up over here in Lake Ontario, which I give them a lot of credit for, at least they let us come down the St. Lawrence into Lake Ontario, Camorra, right? They get in that general area. It's only 3,000 nautical miles. Now, I'm going by their math, by their rate of speed, how fast the barge would go in the ocean, and so many knots. So I'm using their data so I can compare it fairly. So they will go here in a straight line and say, look here, guys, you need 5,000 plus nautical miles to make 344 days, and the Atlantic doesn't work. Therefore, the Jaredites did not cross the Atlantic. And that's all the further they go. And then they drop it right there. So let's just press on. So this right here, I bet some of you have probably seen this map. Now, I will tell you, the guy that made this map is really a friend of mine, and we agree to disagree. And I'm going to, he's been touting this map for 2 years, maybe 3, and I just got to the point, I've had so many people call me, say, Wayne, have you seen this map? And I said, yes, I've seen the map. Okay, no, here we go. Number 1, what do the scriptures say? What direction did they go when they left Babylon? North.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, they go
going
north.
north. What are they doing here? They're going south.
Hmm.
The white line is the south line. That's the arrow. Okay.
Yeah, I see
They're
that.
going south. See the arrow, the white line?
Yeah.
He's got them going south.
Is it-
Right there, he's going against the scriptures. I got a problem
I
with it.
think they got confused with Nephi and his family going
Well,
because they say they're going east, but I know as Heartland is,
understand.
we don't believe that.
But then see the second thing that's a problem, he's got this here being the empty quarter. This is the empty quarter, the place they left from. And I'm here to tell you guys, I had some ancient history classes in college, and I'm here to tell you that where you see the word Shem and the yellow arrow, that is the thickest archaeological zone in the whole world. And number 2 is
Yes, it
the
is.
Tower of Babel and Ham, and the least one is Shem. But Japheth is the empty quarter. It's not that one. So I don't know what books he's reading. I mean, it's not that hard to figure this out. Here, what you see, I've put the empty quarter where it's supposed to be. Okay, that is the empty quarter. It's not the one down below. So again, that's number 2 knockout. It's just like, man, I don't know what else I can say here. And then on top of that, if you follow the trail, look at the white line. He's not in the wilderness. That's where they're building and practicing their barge building, is the white line. He's actually in the Indian Ocean already. So he's not in the wilderness. He's in the ocean. He's in the water. That's wrong. Scriptures don't say that. And then, of course, he goes up, and then you see it all the way over, and they land in the Pacific. So on the far right, number 1, direction is north, not south. That's first mistake. He's in the wrong quarter. That's a big one. And he's not in the wilderness practicing barge building. He's already set sail into the ocean. You can't practice out here. You're going to drown. Okay. I mean, is that a fair
Yeah.
assumption?
Yeah, I'd say so.
When he lands in the Pacific Northwest, Washington, Canada, Oregon, take your pick. I don't care. There is no archaeological data supporting arrival of a mass of people and then moving all the way across to the Ohio. It's not there. So I don't know what to say. And this guy's a friend of mine. What do I say? What do I say? So if you're hung up on this map, I'm sorry, but I'm telling you right now, this thing is it's not very good. So we're going to go back here to this. Here's our 3,000 nautical miles. No, I need to point that out to you. I want you to notice. Now, they did get their 5,000 plus nautical miles with this route, okay? And notice the red one in particular. Notice the arc, the bend. Very important. You're going to see why in a minute. Very important.
Yeah.
And so, again, 24 days, 10 knots. I'm going to use all their math over on my map. We're going to do that on my map. So I'm using their math. So here we are again, right here. We're going to change this. It'll go right up here, and we're going to take off from southern England, but we're going to go in an arc also, just like they did. Fair enough? There's the distance. That's the first one. And then here's the second one. And then here's the third one.
Well, that makes more sense that you would want to make a stop along the way, and oftentimes we think that nobody was ever doing any of this on the seas, and clearly people had routes that they would take, and that makes more sense there.
They had us at Ontario. I end up at Ontario, and guess what? We've got our 5,000 nautical miles.
There it is.
I'm not saying this is perfect, guys, but I'm saying show me something better. I'm willing to change. But that other map, that's, man, I tell you, that's just those poor people over. Well,
And if I remember correctly too, I recall there being currents all along these 7 seas, and one of the currents fits this map as well, where the currents actually go northward and they go further west, as
now
you're showing right here.
let me tell you what's interesting. When you talk to Brian Utenin, he will tell you, I know where our people embarked from to come here. He says northern Scotland. This is a trail used by
Interesting.
a lot of mariners for several hundred years. Several, especially the Phoenicians. Now, look at this here now. I'm going to show you this. It's very possible. Originally, when the glaciers really started to melt and fall back, we end up with this giant lake, this green area. This is Lake Nipissing. Now, I want you to notice the red arrow down the bottom by Ohio on the bottom of the screen. That star is Columbus, Ohio. Northern Ohio has no Adena, no Hopewell, no mounds. And yet Ohio is known for all the mounds, but nobody's in the north because it was underwater. That's my point. I'm going to show that to you. So hang on to that. And the red line coming down the St. Lawrence to Cook into the Lake Huron off of the Ottawa. This is called the James, and it can get you right over there. Today, you'd have to go on that red line. You'd have to portage, but on with canoes. You can't make a big boat because the uplift has changed. All the uplift, but that was a cross, which means if the falls was even showing, you could bypass the falls to get into the Great Lakes. It's not a problem. So now I want to check this here. So when the Jaredites come roll in, they could have actually seen all of this and called it Ripley Ancon, that which exceeds all. And this would have been, wow. I mean, this is like, amazing. Even if it was a little bit smaller, even so, they would have seen this all. Now, remember the star with Ohio, right? I'm going to show that to you right here. Okay, here's Ohio. Look at the blue line. That's a shoreline on a topo map. Look at all the activity down south. All the mounds. These are all Jaredite sites, the way that Hopewell or Clinton.
Yeah, it's true.
Jaredite sites, ancient shorelines. Now let's just, can you see how faint it is on the shorelines above the blue line? You can barely see them. I got each one marked out in color like that.
Yeah.
Okay, now here goes again. Shorelines. I mean, I'm telling you, there was nothing up there except the Great Black Swamp, which would come up much later, actually, but I'm just showing you for reference where it's at. Shorelines.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I see it.
Great
A lot
Black
easier.
Swamp. And now, there's your Ripley Ancon of Jaredites, Great Black Swamp. Lake filled in. I mean, and this is so cool. This is so cool. I love this. All right.
Well, and
go ahead.
it's easy to see the history. Like if you go to just of how the Louisiana Purchase happened and what they were dealing with when that property or that part of America was owned.
Right.
There was a big body of water or a swamp that they were probably happy to get rid of.
Right. The nice thing about the Louisiana Purchase is that there's 2 Native American tribes that are on there that were recognized by France as indigenous people with sovereign rights. And David, one of them is your people. Did you know that?
Well, it's wild. I was this is probably something you have to explain for the audience, but for the longest time, I couldn't figure out why I was called to Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio mission.
Interesting.
That was my 2-year mission, and I always, because in the mission and in the Cleveland mission, they would tell us, the mission president and people would say that the people who were like that lived in that land, their descendants would come back and reclaim the land.
That's
And and
interesting.
so like I served with Elder Pratt. That was one of my companions.
Okay,
I I believe that many of the missionaries that I served around and with
sure.
probably had pioneer heritage in Ohio because of Kirtland and the early days of the church. But I couldn't figure out why I was the only black missionary. Like there was another black missionary, but he got sent home early. But I was pretty much the only black missionary for the entirety of my mission, and I couldn't figure out why I was sent there. And I just made that connection as maybe it's because I've got a connection to the Jaredites.
Gotcha. Well, actually, you do. We're going to get there. Just hold on. So, okay, now here's the Great Ark again. And they call this. We find this on artifacts out here in the islands and all these verse pages. I mean, covering centuries of mariners. This Great Ark. And here's what we find. We find this mark. And it's called the Ark of Travel.
Wow, that is
Simply put,
interesting.
so you find an artifact, and it can be a different timeline. I mean, several hundred years apart, but you'll still find this mark. They're telling the other mariners, this is the path. This is where you got to go to get over there. This is where you got to go. This is the Ark of Travel. Now, in our conference, we're going to have a guy speak on this. One of the guys I brought in, which is Lon Krieger, and he's going to tell you the whole story on the Ark of Travel. I got to tell you, you are going to be amazed. You're going to be amazed, especially a particular translation that they have for it. And these guys are forerunners to the Phoenicians. They're older than the Phoenicians, and absolutely terrific. So, where did the Jaredites come ashore? This we have to go and look to the Nephite record, because when Mulekites come blowing in into the St. Lawrence, and it tells us that they land northward, and they land in the Desolation. They see the bones, they see the great destruction. But what's interesting, they call it their first landing. That's very important. Some people are trying to put them landing in Iowa right away, coming up the Mississippi. It's just bogus. These guys were in the land northward, and this is the land of desolation. Eastern Iowa is not the land of desolation, and it's not the land northward. Again, stay with the scriptures, people. Please stay with the scriptures. You don't have to change things, and don't change the narrative. So, and thus the land northward was desolation, and the land southward would become bountiful, and that's just fine, because that's the way we have it, and that's what we believe. Ohio, Indiana, Illinois falls into the bountiful area, but this is the land of desolation, the land northward. And this is a kind of just a real overview of the Adena, where you find them. Now, the little circles that are bunched up, that means those are hot spots, really thick. We've got the one on the top is Michigan. Next one down that's Columbus, Ohio. To the right is West Virginia, and underneath that, the three there, that's Kentucky. Those are the four hot spots for the Adena. Very, very dense, very, very thick. But they covered all this area, very area. So.
This episode is sponsored by Oraqel Code. I'm going to run your code first. It's called your Oraqel Code. It's going to tell me everything I need to know about who you are. Miss Gloria enters this world spiritually encoded with wholeness and return. The number 10 is sacred, a blend of oneness and completion. She is a finisher, a restorer, and a vessel through which divine designs move. We're going to take this information. We're going to build a song now.
Boy, you knew your name. I traced you in light, marked you with fire on the edge of the night. You were born to finish what others let go. A sacred flame wrapped in grace and shadow.
What do you think? You want me to send it to you?
Yes.
Did we do good?
You did.
It's a miracle, huh? It's almost as good as walking on water, if you ask me. So nice to meet you.
Thank you.
To get your Oraqel code now, either click the link or take a picture of that QR code, and you can get your Oraqel code and your song today.
And then Ether 10. And they built a great city by the narrow neck where the sea divides the land. Now, this we have to be very careful of, again, because we don't have all the records on shorelines. So all we can do is look at the map we have today. And all I can do is I just suggest two places, staying in the land north. I do like the narrow place for Niagara, but I give it a good star because the Native Americans called that the narrow place. So they were still here. But the point is, and at the elevation here is higher than Detroit, but this is Detroit or the X. That's where Detroit, Michigan is. There's a lot of Adena stuff there that Detroit, Michigan is built on top of, and very, very, very few records survive that building of the city of Detroit. But we know it was there. So to me, it's just two places I picked. And again, I don't have a lot to support it. But that's just, it's got to be somewhere where the sea divides the land. The sea has to divide the land. And that's why when they go into Panama and say that's the narrow neck, well, the land down there divides the sea. It's not correct. The sea has to divide the land at the narrow place. And that's what I'm doing, showing them. So let's take a peek at southern England and see what we find there. Okay. I believe the Jaredites left from southern England. And that's our Beakers again. We've already talked about that. So the Beaker people, and we're going to find them mixed in with the mound builders because they come to Ohio in the 1890s at Portsmouth, Ohio. This is John Wesley Powell. He sent Will de Haas down to work this great site on the very southern tip of Ohio that touches on the Ohio River. And it's a great site, by the way. We're going to take a peek at that. So here's Will de Haas going down to Ohio. Now, look down here at the bottom. He said he made observations to the mound construction and concluded that Celtic hinges and causeways from southern England were noticeable as a comparison to the Ohio. Dated the dig site to, wow, 1990 BC. I got to tell you guys, this guy was right. Now, he writes all this up in a paper. He sends it up to the Smithsonian to Mr. Powell. Powell reads that and he's absolutely infuriated because in his mind, nobody here before Columbus, except the local natives who were just, nomadic, running around through the woods, shooting deer, and maybe getting a scrap once in a while with their neighbors. But that's it. That's the way he looked at the Indians. No civilization. So he writes back to good old de Haas. It takes 4 weeks turnaround time. And de Haas got fired. He fired him. Now, an underlying reason for this, Powell fought for the Union. De Haas was a Confederate. And we know that they had problems. There were sparks even before this. But he was right. Now, let's take a look at what he saw. And this is amazing. This here is Portsmouth, Ohio. This is what he's talking about. He's working in Portsmouth, Ohio. He said, hey, this resembles southern England. And I'm going to date this in 1900 BC. Whoops, right there. There it is, Avebury, England. What do you think, guys? Is that a match?
That's really interesting.
Isn't that
Wow.
incredible?
That's very curious.
Yeah. I mean, there it is. I mean, de Haas, he must have been just like, whoop.
Well, Wayne, you're saying something that's pretty phenomenal because I recently saw so I'll bring the slides back up. I just want to kind of focus on us for a second here.
Fine.
I remember seeing a video about mounds in England, and I couldn't understand why are these mounds looking similar to mounds in America.
That's right.
And I think that there was even a serpent's mound in England or in Europe, and I have to look it up. But the way that the ancients buried their people, or at least those connections, were too peculiar. Now I kind of dismissed it because I'm like, okay, well those aren't native mounds. But maybe something's going on here. Now I'm realizing those might be Jaredite mounds as well.
Very possible. Very possible. All right, give me control of that screen. All right, now just going to show you a couple artifacts from the Beakers. All right, on the left here, British Isles. This is the double-notched, jeepers, I call it double-notch ornament. Look at the British Isle ones. Look at North America, the green one. Okay, I mean it's the same.
Geological.
It's the same. And then we've got their axe heads are all made the same. There's no difference. They're the same. And then this is my favorite because besides the fort that I showed you at Avebury, he saw a hinge. Now on the bottom right here, this is an England. This is an English hedge. This is exactly the same as the one here in Indiana, which is above it. The only difference is Indiana doesn't have the wooden stockade around the edges, but it'd be the same. And then if you look over there, there's the drawing from the top looking down for the aerial, and that's called a hinge. And that's what he's talking about. He saw all these hinges And he says, man, this stuff's all over southern England. What's going on? Now, I want to give, and I've mentioned this before, I want to give Indiana credit. The boys at Indiana, the archaeologists, they will tell you these were Adena built, Hopewell remodeled. Let me rephrase that. Jaredite built, Nephite remodeled. Okay? So we come along 2,000 years later and we remove the wooden stockade posts and we date them, and they all date back to Hopewell timeline, because these hinges are set on the same settings of Hopewell, 13-month calendar. Hopewell, Adena, they're still using the same calendar, even though they're long ways apart. It's still the same, a 13-monther. And so why tear all this down and build it back up? You just remodel it and use it. And they did. And that's what happened. The geometrics, I'm convinced, and right now they've already found a couple that are outside the Hopewell timeline, and they're being very quiet. Nobody's talking. They don't know what to do. And why do we know? We know because of the Book of Mormon. You see, the Book of Mormon is really like a field manual. Once you read it and really get into it, you can see this stuff when you walk Ohio. You can see it and you can feel it.
Yeah, it's really that's remarkable.
I mean, it's and this is just a few, guys. It's just a little tickle, okay? There's so much more. So, and now I proceed with my record. Behold, it came to pass that the Lord bring Jared and his brethren to the great sea to divide the land. That's the Atlantic. I want to keep reminding that. How many years did the Jaredite nation last? About 1,700, okay? Now, let's identify some Jaredite stuff here in North America. All right. I may have showed this before. I don't remember. But anyway, this is by Robert Smith. Jaredite names on the left are in the Book of Ether. The names on the right are in the Book of Mormon for Nephites and Amalekites. And look, they're still using Jaredite names. How is that possible? How would they even know to use a Jaredite name? It's because some Jaredites were still there and they lived with the Amalekites.
Yeah, that's quite late after. Like, you have
Oh, yeah.
Alma and the Helaman, third Nephi. They're still using Jaredite names.
It's all there. These guys are mixing together. Now, the Nephites, they wouldn't know that until Mosiah brings them up into Zarahemla country in Iowa. And then they would run into all this stuff. And also, in the Book of Mormon, there's 2 or 3 guys that come in and cause all kinds of trouble civilly. They're all, according to Hugh Nibley, Jaredites. And they're in this mess, like Corihor's one, and Nehor.
That is a cool. I don't think anybody's ever done that comparison to look at all of the Nephite used, like the Jaredite names being still used by Nephites. I don't
Yeah,
think anybody's
that's what I
ever
mean.
done this before.
It's the Amalekites that had it, because they got a
Yeah.
true infusion of Jaredite people with their group. And then I want to show the book that is so good. This is called Lehi in the Desert and the World of the Jaredites. There Were Jaredites by Hugh Nibley. You can buy this used online for $5 or $10. I'm telling you right now. Or you go buy it new for 35 or 40. I would recommend everybody buy this book, because Hugh talks about the Jaredites mixing with the Amalekites. And it's really, guys. And the archaeological record. Here's the archaeological record. Non-members, archaeologists, all the way across from Iowa to New York, Wisconsin to Texas. They can see oftentimes a little bit of Adena stuff mixed in with the Hopewell stuff. Well, as then they just didn't pick it up and do it. We know for a fact the Adena had a hill fort in Ohio around 230 BC, still here. Almost 400 years have passed, and they're separate. And that fort, when the work was done, no Hopewell moved into it. They left it alone. Another one is in Pennsylvania, and that one's privately owned. We can't work it, but we can see it, and it's a huge one. And then we've got the one in Canada coming in. That's around about 425, 435 BC again, 150 years after. Supposedly they were all gone. Well, we've got Jaredites, Adena, still living here in Canada. So I'm telling you, they're out there. Not in big numbers, but the archaeological record will support small gatherings of these people still mixed in after the 600 BC date. Okay? And then here's another one. I show this because here's our Amalekites coming into the north, finding in the north country the Jaredites. And just very quickly, this is probably one of the major problems for Hopewell, because when they do the work, they find out that Florida is the oldest. they find out that Tennessee and Iowa are really close together. So the thinking is, how do we have 3 hot spots for Hopewell spring up so early, and yet Ohio becomes the center? Ohio becomes the center, you see? But the Book of Mormon tells us how that happens. And they're expecting everybody to come from the east to land on the coastline and move in. But it's coming from the west. It's coming from the west, moving to the east. And that's a real problem for the archaeologists. They haven't figured that out yet. If they read the Book of Mormon, they'll get their answers. Okay? It's just like that. All right. This is Dr. Sorensen, and I've shown this probably 100 times, and I show it because he recognized that the Mulekites for sure, he didn't say Nephites, but Mulekites for sure did come across the Atlantic Ocean, and that's why I show it, because they came in the Jaredite Trail. They followed the same trail in. That's my point. And Dr. Sorensen, Mulekites. All right. And again, place of first landing, I can't stress that enough. They did not land in Iowa. They landed up in the Great Lakes. That's really a bummer. So Coriantumr, he's the big one. He's the big one. Because then they found Coriantumr. And again, now this is part of the Nephite story. However, it's going to be a Jaredite story because of this. People who were related to the Suttons, they called me up and said, hey, Wayne, I think we got something you're going to like. And we're going to send you a transcript out of one of our ancestors' diaries. And I said, great. Have you seen this before? Have you seen this before? Okay.
No, I'm eagerly waiting.
The funny part, this is in this is in the historian's office. The church owns this. They've got this. Okay. Let me show you what's happening. This is Sutton Story. Now, here's the actual story, but I'm going to break it down for you because this is just too much to read. Here's what happens, okay? This gal, all right, she's never conversed with a Mormon. Never. Her father told her the bone story when she was young. Now, what it was, he was a stonemason, and he's down in the Little Miami off of Fort Ancient, which is a Jaredite settlement, and he finds a tomb, and he finds a big skeleton in her bones, and he brings the bones home, and he puts them under his bed at night. Can you imagine that? The wife let him put them under the bed. So anyway, really at night, he tells us a spirit from Babylon, that the Lord changed the name, showed up by his bed. He didn't tell him his age, but he's talking to this guy. He said his people were brought here by the Lord, and they were numerous. Their contentions were great among the people, and they needed to stop. The Lord raised up a prophet to warn them of stop contentions. He and the other leader are all that would be left at the end. He would live to see another people who would replace him. After 9 moons, he received a burial by the new arrivals. The new people buried him where Miss Dill's father found him. Here it is. Here's the real hook. This happened 15 or 20 years before the Book of Mormon was printed. What do you think of that?
I'm blown away that this story exists.
Isn't that awesome?
You saying the church has had the story?
Church has this. It's in the historian's office. That's where I got the story. I mean, I got it from the family. They told me about it, but the actual diary, they have the diary and they send me a transcript. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
okay.
cool.
Now,
And the church is just sitting.
what do our Maso guys say about this? This is secondhand information, and they won't accept it. They dismiss it. And I don't think they know it was there either, because when I brought this out, I caught a lot of flack. I've had this out for 5 or 6 years. I caught a lot of flack. But I'm sticking to it. It's in the church historian's office. You can go see it. Now, here's the deal. If the Sutton experience was accepted as genuine source, here's what we'd have. The Mulekites positively entered North America by the St. Lawrence. Coriantumr was found not far from New York, Cumorah, supporting the one hill. They stayed there for 9 moons. They buried Coriantumr in the Little Miami River next to a huge Adena fort. That would make it part of the land Bountiful, next to land Desolation. The area around Lake Erie and Lake Ontario would be the land north with the waters of Ripley and Ancum. Period. That's what I gleaned from this. This is rocking. This is rocking. So I asked the next question. Are the Adena our Jaredites? Okay. Now we get another help. Lisbeth's diary. Guess where this sits? Historian's office in the church. Diary number 2. All right.
Wow.
Isn't that awesome?
Okay, let's go.
Diary number 2. Okay, here's the players. Jacob Baum, Elizabeth Baum, she's the daughter. This is her father. She's in her older years here. And of course, Joseph Smith, the prophet. Let's see what happens. Okay. This is the transcript that I got from the church. Okay. Now I'm going to go up here because I can read the small part. One day, about 1844, the pigs were feeding in the woods and they rooted up an evidently ancient mound, unearthing some bones, which father discovered was a human skeleton of immense proportions. Among the bones was a huge skull. He drove the pigs out of the field, brought the skull to the house to show the family. He held it up over his own face. It was so large, it frightened mother and us children terribly. He took it and went back, and in excavating further, he found 12 giant bodies buried in the form of a wheel, with heads to the center forming the hub. They were between 7 and 8 feet tall. While he was thus engaged, the prophet Joseph Smith stopped by horseback, inquiring what father was about. He soon discovered the size of the skeletons and remarked, now here's the important part. Jacob, those were Jaredites. Cover them up and let them rest. So he fenced them in so nothing could disturb them further. Father did this, sacredly performed the request, and protect them from further harm. Now, what's happened here? Joseph Smith identifies a burial of 12 men like spokes of a wheel, just like he said, in a circle. Okay? Now, this is, I believe this is 2 months before Joseph was murdered. Thereabouts, okay? About 2 months. So here it is, skeleton of immense proportion, huge skull, very large, 12 skeletons buried like spokes in a wheel, heads to the center like a hub, 7 and 8 foot tall. Joseph identifies them as Jaredites.
Where
This is
where was this located again?
just out of Nauvoo, about 2 miles out of town. I know where the farm is. I've already talked to the farmer. I'm trying to arrange a dig, okay? That's in work. That's in process right now. So here's the important part. Here's what that would look like. Spokes of a wheel. This is the hub, and Joseph's their Jaredites. Now, I can tell you, I don't know for sure about the actual date, but there's a man who I'm going to introduce you to by the name of Dragoo, who did, as far as I understand, the most work on the Adena in those hot spots, especially Kentucky and Michigan. And what he dug up, again, would start probably in 60s and 70s, or maybe the late 50s, okay? So nobody had seen this until he started digging the Adena mounds. You understand this? We've had like 30, 40 years pass by, okay? I mean, a long time. Nobody had identified this yet till Dragoo came along. And when they dig them up, this is him, Don Dragoo, all right? Here's what happens. Hancock County, Illinois. This is the bomb dig. Not identified by archaeologists, but identified by Joseph that these are Jaredites. Now we go across country. Decades later, Adena mounds being dug up. This is Cass County, Michigan. Hamilton County, Indiana. Scioto County, Ohio. Ross County, Ohio.
Wow.
Coshocton County, Ohio. Drake County, Ohio. Pickaway County, Ohio. Louisiana Mound Society, that's in Louisiana. Prehistoric Men of Kentucky is in Kentucky at Louisville. And the Vermilion County in Indiana. St. John's Mound in Florida.
Huh.
Here we have the archaeologists identifying all of these, that's in Putnam County, all of these as Adena. But you see, years before, Joseph said this type of burial are what? Jaredites. As far as I'm concerned, I have no problem anymore. For me, the Jaredites and the Adena are one and the same people. I don't have any problem. I'm with Joseph all the way on this.
Well, it's interesting too, because I was going to comment on that first image, because was it number 12, 1 and 2 were missing heads.
That's right.
And then
Could have been from the pigs, could have been from rot. Who knows?
Or
yeah. And the head didn't come home.
Yeah, it could have been. Yeah, that's quite interesting.
All right. Now, a farm just outside of Carthage, which is just a few miles from Nauvoo, they found over 500 of these guys buried in a huge pile. Over 500. And they tell how they fell apart as he uncovered them. And this is on my bucket list. I'm going to go to this farm. I'm going to find it and go back there and open up the dig if they haven't built something on top of it. That's one of my bucket lists. I got to go after it. It's incredible. So now we're going to jump from Illinois to Upper Michigan. Who are the copper miners? Okay, copper mines, and the big dig that's going on 2200 BC all the way down to 800 BC, which is whose timeline? Jaredites. Jaredite timeline. And what does it say in the Book of Mormon? They threw up heaps of earth and banks of earth to dig what? Copper. Copper. Copper mines. Jaredites. So here's the copper country. Most of them hung out on Beaver Island. This is the Autrain Valley. You sail right through. 10,000 copper pits are up here on the Keweenaw, and then out there to Isle Royale, another 10,000 pits. I mean, we're talking so much copper, we just have to estimate. And the point is that copper didn't stay here. It left. That's the big mystery. And that's what the fight's about. Because we're saying it went back to the eastern hemisphere, and the local boys say, no, it's got to be here somewhere. Something's wrong. Well, it's wrong is that you're not appreciating these guys could sail. That's the whole point. So let's take a look. Here's the Keweenaw. Look at the timeline. Look at that timeline. 2470 all the way down to 850 BC. Guys, this is totally Book of Mormon. Ether. Totally. I mean, and non-LDS people are doing the work. And this book right here, I wish that cover would have come out better, but it's Prehistoric Copper Mining in Lake Superior Region by Dreyer and Dew Temple. In here, you will find something I'm going to show you that's absolutely going to excite you, David. It should excite everybody. It remains for me in this connection to call attention to the fact that perforation of the humerus, or they're digging up skeletons in Isle Royale and Copper Country, is another remarkable characteristic which I have observed to pertain to those men of our region with flattened shin bones. I refer to the communication of the second foci situated at the lower end of the humerus. This is of great interest as the peculiarity is mostly frequently met with in the Negro race. It has been observed in the Indian, while yet is very seldom in the white races. Flattening of the shin bone, these osteological variations are found occasionally in the present Indian, and the former is very common in the Negro. How about that? What did Joseph say? Jaredites. What's this telling us? More, yeah, this could back up Joseph. Interesting. And
Yeah,
they don't find any of the burials in the copper minings. They only find these. They don't find anybody else.
I'll tell you, this might be the title of the video. Brother Jared was black. This will change LDS paintings quite a bit.
I'm just telling you, and I'm not done with you yet. There's more. Oh,
I actually believe that.
we got stuck.
Just so you
There
know.
we go. Okay. Now,
They had a lot of faith.
our archaeologists of the church, historians of the church, hate the Kinderhook plates. They absolutely hate these plates. And I'm not being over-exaggerated, okay? But I'm going to show you the story because people don't take time to look at the story. 1843, Joseph is in Nauvoo. These guys are just kind of south of the Zelf Mound, not too far, in Pike County, and they dig up this large amount, a whole bunch of guys there, 10 or 12 guys, and they find a large skeleton. They say it's about 6 to 8 feet down, 9-footer, and he's got these little bell-shaped plates around his neck. I think, can't remember, 6 or 10. Anyway, this is the only two that still exist. They're in Chicago at the Newberry Museum. It's the only place you can see them. But when they got them, unfortunately, they cleaned all the patina off with the acid. So the patina is gone. So we can't do that kind of test. But here they are. And so someone said, hey, let's go up to Nauvoo. That Joe Smith guy, he can read stuff like this, you know. So they take him up there. Now, this comes from B.H. Roberts, okay? Here is a part where Joseph Smith gets the plates, he looks at them, and he translates, but he kind of gives an overall story because he wanted to read all of them. He just read a few, so we're told. I insert a facsimile of the 6 brass plates found near Kinderhook in Pike County, Illinois, April 23rd by Mr. Wiley. and others while excavating a large mound. They found a skeleton about 6 feet from the surface of the earth, which must have stood 9 feet high. The plates were found on the breast of the skeleton and were covered on both sides with ancient characters. I have translated a portion of them and find they were contain the history of the person with whom they were found. Now, this has been in Mormon books and papers for years. He was a descendant of Ham. Okay? Loins of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Received his kingdom from the rulers of Ham. Now, first question should be in your mind, what is a son of Pharaoh doing in North America? That should be the first question. It doesn't make sense. How does a son of Pharaoh in Egypt get to Illinois in a mound? Okay? So here's what happens. Keep going. Now, Parley P. Pratt is with him. He's by Joseph's side. Listen what Parley says. He tells the same story, but he adds a couple things. 6 plates having the appearance of brass have lately been dug out of a mound by a gentleman of Pike County, Illinois. They are small and filled with engravings in Egyptian language and contain the genealogy of one of the ancient Jaredites, back to Ham, son of Noah. Now, why would Parley say that if he didn't hear that fall from the lips of Joseph Smith? Why would he say that? Joseph can't say that. And there's a reason for that, and we're going to get to it. Joseph can't say that, but Parley can. Okay? Ham, Jaredite, Illinois, Pharaoh. Okay? I mean, this is like, wow, this is crazy. It's right up. Now, we get the same story, and William Clayton, who was also there at the same time, he tells the same story. This is the translation from Joseph he copied down. It matches. Nothing about Jaredites. And this right here is George Smith tells the same thing, but he talks about Brigham Young. Brigham Young was also present when Joseph did the translation, and he put stuff in his diary. His diary is not open to the public. We can't see it. But there's stuff in there, no doubt, because it says he recorded all this stuff going on. Okay? We can't see it. Here's your stuff. That's where it's at. Now, here's why Joseph could not say these were descendants of Ham or say that they were black natives. What's he doing at this time? He's running for president of the United States. Sidney Rigdon's the vice president. What's going on in America in the 1830s, 40s? What's going on? Slavery.
Lots of slavery debate.
Yeah, you can't walk up and say, hey, man, we had black people here running this country thousands of years ago. Why, they would have strung Joseph up. They would have strung Sidney with them. You see what I'm saying? He couldn't say anything, but he knew. That's why Joseph knew. Joseph knew. And there's nothing wrong with that, but he knew. Okay? Now, I get this magazine from the Smithsonian, and this was so cool. December, kind of rolling in, talking about the Black Pharaohs. The Black Pharaohs. How many of you guys know about the Black Pharaohs? Nobody knows about the Black Pharaohs, but they told the story. It's awesome. And I'm just going to show you a couple of things, okay? This is the actual verbiage, but I took out the stuff here. Here's what they tell us. Where they came from is a place where the sun is born from the west. Bank typically associated with sunset and death that ancient Egyptians believed was the source of creation. But what are they looking to the west? They're looking at that mythical Atlantis that's now gone because it's in the waves. They're looking at North America. This is their home, and they're telling us that. And then over here, defeating a coalition of the princes, this guy in the 25th dynasty, this starts off the Black Pharaohs. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in this whole magazine, just a bunch. And up here, talks about how Cush, linked to the biblical Cush, son of Ham, grandson of Noah, Northeast Africa. We get then, what do we get out of there? The first Pharaoh, the very first Pharaoh. We have in our Pearl of Great Price, what do we have? The land of Egypt, first discovered by the woman who was daughter of Ham, daughter of Egyptus, which in Chaldean signifies Egypt, which signifies that which is forbidden because of the priesthood. When this woman discovered the land, it was underwater. Her sons in it, and thus from Ham sprang that race which preserved the curse in the land. Now the first government of Egypt was established by Pharaoh, the eldest son of Egyptus, and the daughter of Ham. It was after the manner of the government of Ham, which was patriarchal. patriarchal.
That's so interesting. Patriarchal.
And it'll also tell you that this guy, he was a righteous man before God. He was righteous. But he patterned all the stuff in Egypt after the priesthood patterns that he knew that he was taught. That Shem did. He wanted to be everything, but he couldn't because of what had happened. Okay? It's sad. But that's what happened. So I'm telling you, all this stuff is here. It's all there. You just have to look. So my question is, my thoughts are, it's really, again, all about the water. I mean, the water makes everything happen. It's the water. And so all I can tell you then is basically, there.
Here we go.
It's my ending. I report and you decide. That's so important for me. So if people don't like it, I don't care. I'm just telling you what's out there, people. If you don't like it, well, you don't have to read about it. If you want more? There's a lot more out there. I'm just giving you the frosting on the cake. There's a lot of stuff out there. And I believe thoroughly Adena are our Jaredites, and they are descendants primarily of Ham. Now, keep in mind, out of Babylon, they were a multicultural society. The friends and neighbors he brought with him, it could have been some Shemites, it could have been some Japhethites, because somehow we had to get Ether to become a prophet of God if they couldn't hold the priesthood. And again, in Ether, they never mention the priesthood at all. They don't mention. But then the confusing part for members that don't understand, why did the Urim and Thummim, why was that given to, Jared? Why was it given to him and Coriantumr? They could use it. They could use it because you don't need the priesthood to use it. It's a gift from God. Joseph Smith used it for 2 years before he got the Aaronic priesthood. Okay? It's a gift. And then those men were righteous. I don't care what color their skin was. They were righteous before God, and that's all that matters. And so I'll leave that with you. I report, you decide.
Love it. Love it. Amazing.
Boy, oh boy.
Well, we
Don't
got
sleep tonight for David.
Yeah, I've always thought that the Jaredites were where David descended from. I think he's like the real modern day. I'm going to call him latter day Mahanrai Coriantumr. Instead of David the Lion Douglas. So, Wayne, thank you so much for presenting. And we got
Let me insert one
go ahead.
piece of information.
Yeah.
One more. Remember I told you
Yeah.
about the two nations on the Louisiana Purchase that got sovereign status from
Yeah.
France, and they had to get sovereign status from the United States, which they did. And one of them comes out of Louisiana, okay? And they have an office at the United Nations because they're a sovereign nation. And guess what color their skin is? It's black. And they will tell you, we do not get here through slavery. We've been here for centuries, native to this country. And they're out of Louisiana. And they have their office at the UN. They are a sovereign nation. I mean, it's just another little, check mark, check off. Okay.
What's the nation called?
I'm trying to remember if they actually have a name. They do have a name. I'm trying to remember. It's gosh, slipped my mind. I'm getting too old.
Well, if you think of it, tell me later.
Oh, I will definitely think of it. Anyway, I'll get it to you, and you can look them up.
All right.
You can look them up. They're on the Louisiana Purchase for sure, but I'll get you the name. Okay. All right. Sorry I interrupted.
Okay. Well, love it. Wayne, thank you so much for presenting here. This is also interesting. I mean, I appreciate Wayne he's just following the scriptures. He's just saying, here's what the scriptures say. So I really appreciate that. I appreciate that approach actually and everything. Let's not try to make things up. Let's just, what do the scriptures say? What do the words say? And let's just stick with that. If we're going to, make assumptions, let's use the scriptures as we make those assumptions. So pretty cool stuff. And I love the idea.
Follow the data.
I love the idea that they probably made stops along the way. This is probably what they did. I've always thought to myself, man, that's a long time for them to travel. Where did they have all of their food? Where did they keep all their stuff? How could this even be possible? And this makes more sense. They would go from here, make a stop, replenish, refuel, whatever you do, and then go to the next spot and then go to the next spot. That makes sense for me. That's what we do in our cars. We drive to the next gas station, we get us some Hostess pies and a Diet Coke, and then we head off for the rest of the drive. So,
Right. Right.
But thank you, Wayne, for presenting. This is awesome. And hey, again, just a reminder, June 20th, June 21st, in Spanish Fork. Get your tickets. Sign up now. David Douglas is going to be there. You can take a picture with him. He'll sign autographs. He's doing the whole thing. So make sure you come. It's going to be awesome. But I'm really excited for Brian Utenin to hear from a real Ojibwe here that's going to tell us some stuff about who they are. And I think they're tied into all of this. I don't know very much about him. I don't even know if he's a member of our faith. But I'm really excited to hear what he has to say about the Book of Mormon and those people that are up in that area where the Ojibways are from. So excited to get some real info. Okay, listen, if you like this video, smash the like button. Let's see if this video can outperform Wayne's other videos. I think he holds a couple of our top videos on our channel. Let's see if this one can perform even higher. If you liked it, share it. Smash the like button, post in the comments. Let's get in the comments and let's talk about this stuff, and let's have this conversation, have the conversation of this Book of Mormon geography as we talk about the brother of Jared. So for myself, I'm Shane Baldwin. For David the Lion Douglas and our awesome guest, Wayne May, we'll see you guys all next time.
Where truth is our guide.